In the beginning of the Cell arc, audiences were introduced to Trunks, a Super Saiyan from the future who acted as a harbinger of the darkness to come. As he explained, in the future the world that Goku and his friends knew would be devastated, as a mad scientist named Dr. Gero unleashed two powerful machines upon the Earth who proceeded to lay waste to everything in sight, wiping out most of the human population and all of our beloved characters. Goku was familiar with Dr. Gero in a way. After all, he was the scientist behind the Red Ribbon Army and the creator of the androids that Goku faced during that arc many years before. However, despite Goku defeating that evil threat, Gero survived and his plans came to fruition after Goku's death from the heart virus. Now, armed with the knowledge that he needed, Goku and friends prepared themselves for the battle that lie ahead, ready to push themselves to their limits and beyond to defeat the artificial humans and bring peace to the future. But that is when another voice entered the fray, the voice of Goku's oldest friend and the one who started his entire adventure, Bulma. And she had a rather proactive idea, that instead of training and fighting the androids in 3 years, they would use the Dragon Balls to find the location of Dr. Gero and destroy him along with his work. However, upon hearing the suggestion, Goku and the others chose to forego this option. The choice that Goku made here has received a significant degree of criticism over the years, with fans declaring it to be one of his single worst decisions and the epitome of his stupidity. But is that actually true? Well, let's take a closer look at this event, and then what would happen if they actually did intervene. So let's begin with Goku and the others' motivations for their choice. The first one to intervene here was actually Vegeta, who said that he would kill anyone who attempted to follow Bulma's plan. This wasn't much of a threat since Goku could easily stop him from hurting anyone, but nonetheless it spoke to something that he and the others believed, that the upcoming opportunity to fight the androids served as the perfect motivation to train and push themselves as warriors and martial artists. Goku, Tien, and the others were all martial artists who devoted themselves and their lives to pursuing their greatest potential and surpassing their limits. So it was only natural for them to want to fight the androids even after hearing what Trunks said, because if they killed Gero now, it would be taking the easy way out and they would forever question what could have been. It would have also been seen as dishonorable to do this, with honor in the fighting code being something that these fighters greatly valued. Otherwise, they would constantly gang up on opponents or use any cheap tactic they could to win. This leads into Goku and his morality. Now, despite what Dragon Ball Super would have us believe, Goku has a defined morality beyond merely wanting to fight strong opponents. He isn't just some selfish person who will risk everything he can for a good fight, as Toriyama now claims as part of his revisionist history, that his apprentice Toyotaro follows. But rather, he's someone who cares about not only his friends and family, but also doing what he perceives to be right. And Goku choosing to not kill Dr. Gero is an example of this morality. Now sure, Goku is thrilled by the challenge of the fight, that's an inherent aspect of his character, but he simultaneously balanced that along with his belief that it would be wrong to kill Gero now when he hasn't built anything evil yet. Of course, Dr. Gero did create a number of machines for the Red Ribbon Army, and in retrospect we know that he was still doing evil things around this point, but Goku wasn't aware of that or the extent that he was truly involved. For all he knew, Gero was forced to do these things, so it still fits into his perspective here. Goku doesn't believe that the ends justify the means, nor does he believe in killing people that he views as innocent even if it could help save lives. One of the greatest themes of this arc is the battle against predestination and causality. According to the events of Trunks' timeline, the androids will be unleashed upon the world and kill everyone, no matter how powerful the Z fighters are. Yet Goku and friends are acting to prevent that in their world. They are in effect fighting against time and destiny itself. And so, just as Goku believes that he and the others can change their future and bring hope to what seems hopeless, they also believe that Dr. Gero and even the androids can also change their own future. That they aren't guilty and worthy of death now merely because of their actions in the future of another world. Within the context of the arc, Goku's logic is actually proven to be correct, because androids 17 and 18 were kidnapped as children, experimented on, and programmed to kill Goku and obey a mad scientist. And when they finally wake up, they're far less evil than in Trunks' future. And ironically, their first fight happens out of self-defense when the Z fighters attack them. And even then, they spare the very people who were trying to kill them. Kami himself explains this to Piccolo before they merge, that he doesn't believe the Z-Fighters rushing in to kill them was necessarily a good thing, and that merging with Piccolo would only be necessary to deal with Cell, who he perceived as the true threat. That's especially important because for those who have never seen the original series, Kami was also fundamental in the formation of Goku's current morality, because after Goku trained with Kami and Popo before the 23rd tournament, he became far more enlightened as a person, which is what led to him sparing his opponents when he once killed them, something that he demonstrated by giving Piccolo Jr. a senzu bean, an act that he repeated with Cell, albeit for entirely different reasons, which I discussed in this video here. So it's clear that Goku is acting here out of more than simply a desire to fight strong foes. But with that being said, what if they actually did use the Dragon Balls to find Gero? Well, that's where things become tricky, especially because we don't know the answers to some key questions. For example, when did Gero first become an android, and when did he create Android 19? According to extra materials, Gero first created 19 to perform the brain surgery that he needed to become Android 20, and it was around this time that he transformed 19 into an energy-draining model like himself, but we're never told exactly when this happened. All we know for sure is that he was an android by the time that he arrived to attack the city. This leaves a long period of time where he could have undergone this procedure, which means that there was a strong chance that he was already an android by the time that Trunks arrived in the past, especially considering that Gero said his monitoring of Goku stopped when he left for Namek, meaning that Gero could have made 19 and become artificial around that time. So as a result, if Goku and friends used the Dragon Balls to find Dr. Gero's lab and attack him at this point, they would be in for some serious trouble, because all of them would be a lot weaker than they were come the time of their first encounter. As I discussed in this video, 19 and 20 were more powerful than 100% Frieza on Namek, and they also had the ability to drain someone's power. So if they were stronger than Goku or drained him of his energy, it would be over for them, because no one else would even come close to Goku's power at the time. And so most, if not all of them, would die, ensuring an even worse future for the main timeline. But even if Gero didn't create 19 or become 20 yet, there were still 3 others waiting for them, with those being 16, 17, and 18. So when did Gero create them? Well, based upon some of the information that we're given in the arc, it seems like Gero was working on 17 and 18 for some time, modifying them over the course of years and shutting them down periodically because of disobedience, which indicates that they likely would have been alive and in his lab around this time. Android 16 is also a strong possibility, considering that we know that Gero started creation of him before the others, which may have dated back many years considering that according to Toriyama, Android 16 was actually based off of Gero's son, who died many years prior. As a result, the Z-Fighters would possibly have 3 more androids specifically programmed to kill Goku waiting for them when they arrive. And just like before, everyone would be killed here, 3 years ahead of schedule. But even if Goku gets there at the perfect time when Gero is still a human and the androids are asleep, is Goku just supposed to murder an old man? Is he supposed to just vaporize 2 defenseless victims while they're asleep and unable to fight back? Because that's what 17 and 18 are. No matter how evil they were in the future timeline, they were still children who were abducted, experimented on, and forced to kill for a mad scientist. So should Goku really just kick down Gero's door and kill them without even giving them a chance? Would the ends really justify the means here? Considering Goku's personality along with Vegeta's and the others, I doubt that they would allow for this, and instead they'd probably just try and wake the androids up. At which point, if they're anywhere near as strong as they were in the main story, they may just kill Goku and perhaps even the others. Now perhaps they'd be thankful for his help, but with the kind of programming they had, I doubt that this would be some kind of happy ending. Now for the out-of-universe rationale, Toriyama obviously didn't want the fight to take place yet. He intended for the fighters to train and meet the androids on the battlefield, so that's obviously why this happened. However, that still coincides with the other in-universe information that we know. In fact, considering that Toriyama originally intended for 19 and 20 to be the true villains of this arc, it would have likely turned out even worse for Goku and friends because Toriyama would have appropriately scaled them to this position, rather than making them able to be easily beaten by Vegeta and Piccolo. And also, taking into account Dragon Ball Super, androids 17 and 18 have aided Goku significantly with their involvement, especially during the Tournament of Power, which 17 ended up winning. So of course, if Goku and friends destroyed them when they were asleep, it probably would have turned out much worse for them long term than the decision that they made here. So ultimately, if you weigh all of the evidence given to us, I think that Goku was actually right to spare Dr. Gero and not attack his laboratory. Because if they did, there's a strong possibility that they would all be killed in the process and doom their timeline after everything that Trunks and future Bulma went through to save it. And for those who may be asking about Goku's line about sparing Gero as a kid, that was a dub change. Goku never encountered Gero in the anime or manga version of the Red Ribbon Army saga. Gero was invented by Toriyama in the Cell arc and retroactively inserted into that story. Goku never says he spared him in the original version either, just that he's surprised that Gero survived, which if anything implies that if they met, Goku tried to kill him. But honestly, in the end, I think that Gero probably just escaped through the plot hole. It's a shame he couldn't do that before 17 crushed his head. Like father, like son. Make sure to subscribe and enable all notifications, so you can stay up to date with all of my videos. Thanks for watching, and make sure to stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future.
Yeah, and you better subscribe.